That's right. Back at it again. Full custom hot dog here, and we're going to be doing another Blu-ray review. That's right. We're going to be talking about Cathy's Curse from 1977, a little French-Canadian picture directed by Eddy Matalon, who's French himself. And this got a release from Severin to 2017 in April, and it's a pretty solid release. So, before we get into some of the details about the film, let's talk about this disc. So we have a director's cut and an alternate US cut. You've got about a 9-minute difference. That director's cut has that 9 minutes. You've got pretty much longer scenes, anything you would expect from a director's cut, and no one has ever said that you could have too much Cathy's Curse, so it is very nice and very much warranted. With that US release cut, though, you get a surprise commentary, at least a surprise to me, commentary with Birth Movies Death critic Brian Collins and filmmaker Simon Barrett. I was very surprised to see that name and hear his voice in that commentary. It's a great commentary, by the way. Sometimes it can be a little scary when you see a commentary from people who aren't involved in the film, but they really give this film some respect. They talk about what they like about it, and they really sing its praises, which is nice because this is a very goofy movie. This is kind of a terrible, great movie. It's so bad it's good, similar to things like Birdemic or The Room, etc., etc., Troll 2. You know, it's so goofy and off the wall. That's sort of how it built its cult following. And these guys really do their best to not just give it the Mystery Science Theater 3000 treatment, which would kind of be like shooting fish in the barrel. You've also got an interview with the director, Eddy Matalon. You've got a featurette called Cathy and Mom, which is an interview with actress Randy Allen, who portrays the titular Cathy, her only film, by the way, and also an interview with costumer Joyce Allen. All very good interviews. You get to hear Randy Allen sort of talk about, you know, it's nice to hear her wax nostalgic about the past making this movie since she was just a kid, and this was in the 70s, so she's all grown up now, and that's kind of cool seeing her do that. Eddy sort of talks about making this movie on a bit of a budget, which is always cool to hear, those struggles and the fishing line scenes that come from that. You've also got an introduction to Cinematic Void, a screening at American Cinematheque by Birth Movies Death critic Brian Collins. This is really the only special feature I have a complaint about. The audio quality on this was terrible, so I couldn't really pay much attention as I was just bombarded by sound. It was really bad. And you've got a theatrical trailer, which is always wonderful, especially on a film like this. And this film, according to the back of the box, has been transferred in 2K from recently found film elements, so it doesn't really say what film elements, but they are there. And I actually dug the look of this film. It's a bit scratchy and dirty at times, but that's not a complaint when it comes to films like this, to me anyway. As long as it's not too bad, I think it sort of adds to the atmosphere and to the mood, and it sells that I'm watching an older film. So I give this release an A-. And it's kind of interesting to note too, because this may be the best release of Cathy's Curse just ever. This may be the first good release, it sounds like. I mentioned that there's bootlegs. Apparently there were quite a few. That's how a lot of people ended up seeing this movie. But, you know, we've got a few options for releases in the past. We've got this version, which sort of looks like you probably won it at like a Mexican carnival. Then you've got this DVD release, which is pretty weird for multiple reasons. Number one, Cathy's obviously a much older woman in this box art picture, and 2, she's very gothic. 3, this is probably a picture taken from what, like 2002, 2003? A very odd choice to have a gothic Cathy. If you buy that movie, you're not getting that movie. You're not getting anything close to that movie, which is definitely for the best, because I don't want to watch that movie. I want to watch this movie, Cathy's Curse. So, what is Cathy's Curse about? Well, IMDb is telling us a young girl is possessed by the spirit of her aunt, who died as a child in a car accident. Soon people around her begin to mysteriously die off. And so, basically, Cathy and her family move into her father's parents' house that he hadn't been to since he was a kid. The evening or something, the weekend, where his father, so Cathy's grandpa, left the house with Cathy's aunt as a child. This all sounds incredibly complicated. I am terrible at saying what this is about. They crash the car and they die. So that Cathy's aunt is now a ghost, or not even a ghost, is it monster? I don't know. She possesses the kid. And then the kid becomes obsessed with her father. and is very nice to male figures, or nicer to male figures, and is just god-awful to women around her. Very odd, I think. I can't get over the fact that the aunt died with her own father, and instead of just being happy in the shadow realm with the father that she loves, decides to torment the living. I feel like that would just be okay to an angry ghost person. They'd be like, oh, I get to spend eternity with the dad I love so much, but instead I'm gonna possess my niece and then be a daddy's girl to what's technically my brother. That's weird to me. But there's a lot of weird things that are weird to me in this film. And you're going to notice quite a few. But regardless of all the stuff that's kind of bad, rough, you get some rough editing, some really weird audio choices. There's some really odd sound design that's very synthy and almost sounds alien-like. You do get some pretty decent performances. I definitely feel and agree with, I think it was Simon Barrett. I don't know. It was one of the guys on the commentary had mentioned that Randy Allen, who plays Cathy, is just a little too happy and seems too sweet to play such a bad girl. So her performance, not so great. But you do have Alan Scarf, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong because there's an E at the end. It was in Lethal Weapon 3, Double Impact. Does a pretty solid job as the Tarantino-looking father. But Beverly Murray, who plays the mom, who's constantly in hysterics, I thought was great here. And I'm kind of curious to know if she's as good in other things, but I don't see her in much that I'm familiar with. I do see her in this Wings Hauser film called The Carpenter, and judging by the cover, I feel like I'm waiting for somebody to release that on Blu-ray, maybe like Code Red or Vinegar Syndrome. That cover, though, sells me on it, so when one of you guys release it, let me know. I'll pick it up for sure. But I thought she was great in this, and it's kind of a shame she didn't have a more burgeoning career. I thought she was great. So this is definitely a fun flick, and it is so bad it's so good. I highly recommend watching this with a group of friends because it's such a blast and full of surprises, and is even great on rewatches. So there's not much you can ask from a film that you have a physical copy of. You can watch it as many times as you want, and it will probably never get old, and it's definitely better than probably those weird bootlegs you might have checked out. So if you're on the fence about buying Cathy's Curse and you like movies that are so bad it's good, check it out. If you're a Cathy's Curse fan or a Matalon head and you're like, hey, I don't have Cathy's Curse yet, I wonder if this Blu-ray is any good. Yes, this is a great release. Fantastic. I am glad to add it to my collection, and it is yet another entry into Severin's library, which Severin's stuff is so freaking good. But anyways, thank you for watching. As always, this is Full Custom Hot Dog. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Full Custom Hot Dog without the last O, because that is just too long for Twitter. So thank you for watching, and until next time.